I'm Lewie Pugh, the Executive Vice President of the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association.
And I'm Ashely Blackford, Senior Correspondent for Landline Now. We're joined by David Jencks of Jencks Law Firm to talk about factoring and the things you should look for when considering a factoring company. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What should owner-operators look for if they're considering a factoring company?
I always tell carriers to think about three initial things when considering a factoring company. It's products, pricing, and contract term. So with respect to products, I always encourage carriers, does the factor have a fuel discount program? Do they have an insurance affiliate? Do they have a tire and repair discount program? Are there certain things that come along with that factoring product that really are a value add for the carrier? Next, and of course, pricing matters. The cost of financing is important to be able to understand and factor in when you're running a business. So you really want to understand what the cost of the factoring is. And then probably lastly, but very importantly, is what's the term of your contract? Is it 30 days? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? And how are you going to exit that contract? What do you have to do to get out of that contract if and when that time comes?
Interesting. Yeah, Dave, how important is it for you to look at the factoring company's history and their knowledge of the trucking industry and their experience in the trucking industry? Because we all know the trucking industry is its own animal.
It is, and the good news is that transportation factoring has become its own animal. It's become a very specialized area of finance, a very specialized area of factoring. And the good news for the carriers is that most of the factors that are willing to do transportation deals are specializing in it. So that makes it a little bit easier for carriers. You're not really having to look across and figure out who knows transportation terminology, who understands transportation supply chain and the transportation flow of paperwork. Most transportation factors, most factors that will do transportation deals are experts. They know it very, very well. Of course, there may be one or two out there that take a deal, a transportation deal that they shouldn't. But I always, my suggestion for carriers is always to ask the factor if they specialize in transportation. Sometimes you can find that on a website, but it's always good to ask a factor, do they specialize in transportation? And if they say yes, you're a long way home in knowing that the factor understands the carrier's business.
What are the limitations and realities of factoring?
Well, I think that one reality of factoring that we have to understand is that the carrier does sort of pick up a business partner when they enter into a factoring relationship. But I actually think that's a good thing because most motor carriers are small, hardworking businesses, and factors can do the billing. Factors can manage collections and do collections. Factors can handle your credit and your credit management and checking. So factors can provide a lot of back office functions that now the motor carrier may not have to perform or do or pay for. But it is somewhat of a business partnership, so to speak. If we're talking about limitations with factoring, maybe one limitation could be the fact the carrier has sold their invoice. And when they sell that invoice to a factor, that factor now has the legal right to manage that invoice and somewhat control that invoice that it purchased.
Yeah, we can't stress enough that these are contracts, and I say this all the time and try to push this to our members and owner-operators. Always read your contract before you sign anything, and if you're not sure, you can send it in here to OOIDA if you're a member, and we'll help you with your contract as well. So with that being said, what should an owner-operator be looking for in these contracts, like certain things that are good, bad, maybe, something to that effect?
Well, maybe I'm a little bit of a broken record, but I think it's that important, and that is, do you understand the term of your contract? How long is it? And then closely associated with that, what do you as a carrier have to do to get out of that contract? When do you have to give notice? What type of notice do you need to give? I think it's probably almost the first thing that a carrier should look at in a factoring contract. Of course, as I said earlier, a factor is going to care about pricing, and they should be looking at the pricing of the contract. And then lastly, but very importantly is the carrier should understand, is it a recourse or a non-recourse contract? What are the carrier's responsibilities to the factor if there's a cargo claim and the customer won't pay? What happens if a broker or shipper goes out of business and can't pay? What are the carrier's responsibilities back to that factor?
How easy is it to cancel a factoring contract?
Well, that varies widely and wildly. There are some contracts that are extremely easy to cancel. 30 days notice, and you can be done in 30 days. Many maybe require 60 days notice, but there may not be an area where factoring varies more widely than the ease with which a carrier can cancel a contract. Some make it extremely easy. Quite frankly, some make it quite difficult. And so that's something that, of course, I want the carrier to understand going into the factoring relationship, and then to be able to comply with during the factoring relationship.
Yeah, how important under UCC lien, and what does that actually mean for a company, in your company or the trucking company financially, I guess would be the proper way to ask that. Because what is a UCC lien, just quickly?
Sure. Well, first thing I want carriers to understand is that all lenders, whether they're factors or another different type of lender, if they're giving a carrier financing, the lender or the financier is going to file a UCC. A carrier shouldn't really be afraid of it. It's a formality to formalize the priority that that factor has in the carrier's receivable, a very common function. It just perfects the factor's interest. So no carrier should really fear it. There are situations in which a carrier may want to buy a trailer. There's that UCC lien out there. And a truck dealer may say, we have to have a UCC lien. And so the factor can quickly subordinate or change their collateral description in favor of an equipment lender. That happens all of the time. It's a bit of work, a little bit of communication, but I really stress to carriers, don't fear UCC liens.
All right, wonderful. Well, we appreciate all the helpful information, David, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, David. Thank you, David. Is there anything that you'd like to add that we didn't ask or of importance that you think we should get out there before we go?
I think you've asked all the right questions.
Well, thank you, Dave. We appreciate your help and your knowledge to pass on to our members. To all the members out there of OOIDA, thank you for support. If you're not a member, please go to ooida.com or call in here to OOIDA and become a member with your support. And the more we have, the more videos that we can bring to you all like this. And on behalf of myself and Ashley and everyone here at OOIDA, thank you for what you do, truck drivers, and please be safe out there.